Hello, my lovely Red Mare crew. This is the answer to a reader question, and in order to answer it, I want to give you Clova, because she is the perfect example of what I'm talking about, which is anxious horses and anxious humans. Now, I haven't worked with Clovey for a little bit, and I'm just seeing how well she remembers the Standing Still Olympics. All right, Doodle. All right, little ones. I'm just going to step her back a tiny little bit. Back. Good girl. There we go. Good girl. Very nice. There's someone in the tack room. That's what she's looking at. So this is quite a good test for her. Can she just stay still where I've left her, under her own control, even though she'd really like to go and talk to Kaylee? And the thing when I'm doing this is I'm never, cross with them if they move, or I don't micromanage them. I don't think it's a failure if they wander off. But the thing that we do with all our horses is teach them to ground tie, teach them to stand still under their own control. And it's just really useful and practical, as I often say, for all kinds of things, like putting on rugs when you've misjudged the weather, or you suddenly got to get off out on a ride and you've got to get on again in the middle of a great big field. You don't want your horse wandering off while you're trying to get in the saddle. So this is quite a big part of our... Yes, she's really thinking about it. Look, this is so good. She really wants to go off. And as I say, there's no cue, there's no trick to keep her standing still. All we do is offer them a place to rest. And if they take it, then we breathe and we leave them alone. So this is a fascinating example. The red mare will do standing still without even thinking about it. Clovey, who hasn't been, she's just been out in the field for a week, so she hasn't been worked, is really having to think about it and remember how to do it. Good girl, very good. Anyway, there you go. Uh-oh, here comes Freya. Anxious humans and anxious horses. I got a question about what happens if I have a very anxious mare. This is from my reader. And then I start feeling anxiety when I'm with her. And I want to be her reassuring person. But I feel that... Okay, this may be about to go wrong because Freya's on the move. I want to be her reassuring person, but I feel like I'm... And this was the expression, this was a brilliant expression. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. So here, now can Clovey maintain the Standing Still Olympics whilst Freya is on the move? This will be a very good test. Good girl, Clovey. Good girl. She's got the tack room to the left and the horse to the right. Anyway, here's the point about the anxious horse. Clova was probably the most anxious horse I've ever had to work with. I mean, just off the scale, we couldn't catch her. She hated having her halter on. She hated having her bridle on. She couldn't stand still. She had absolutely no concept of thinking her way through a problem. She was in full reactive mode at all times. Good. Well done, Clovey. Good girl. There's a lot of stuff going on in your... And we just lost that standing still. I'll just put her back into it. Good girl. And come forward a little bit. There we are. Good girl. Lovely. Good girl. She's so sweet. Anyway, so the degree of anxiety was super, super high. And that can induce anxiety in the human because you're constantly thinking, I've got this unbelievably worried, reactive horse, and we're off. Good girl. Okay, hold on a second. This is not my best video. I'm going to doggedly keep on going. Good. There we are, stand. Good girl. I've got this incredibly reactive horse, and you know what, if I get it wrong, there we are, good girl. I might just hold on to the rope so that we can we can get some filming done. There we go, good girl, good girl. She's clever. And You get worried about the anxiousness of the horse. You get worried that you're going to add to it rather than resolve it. You get worried that you're never going to find a way through. You get worried, if you were me, that you've bitten off more than you can chew. Also, particularly this horse I was retraining for a child. So it's not as if I'm going to hurt myself or get myself into danger. It is the very precious, hello girls, it's the very precious great niece. Huge amounts of anxiety. Also, it went to my sense of self. You know, I'd started to define myself as someone who could get something done with horses. And then I have this absolutely freaking out little person. And for a long time, I couldn't find the key to her at all. And I thought I had all these tools in my toolbox, and quite a lot of them weren't working, or they were kind of half working. Hello. And this is where, you go back for me, good girl. This is where the title of my last book came from, Change Yourself, Change Your Horse. You have to be unbelievably aware, in my experience, of all the emotions that are going through your head. And a lot of that involves expectation management. So if you can just make that horse a little bit less anxious, make yourself a little bit less anxious, day by day by day, if you can lower your expectations so you're not thinking about having a perfectly safe child's riding horse, you're just thinking, can I teach her that the world isn't this absolutely terrifying place full of monsters? And you just concentrate on what you've got that day, what you're feeling, what your horse is feeling. And you take a breath, and you take the pressure off yourself, and you take the pressure off your horse, and you just, maybe today I'm just going to hang out in the field with my horse and see if I can make a connection. You're not thinking about riding, you're not thinking about removing all her anxiety. And then you're finding your own confidence in that, because you've reduced everything to such small steps, small emotional steps, small practical steps. You don't get yourself in a tangle because your horse appears to have forgotten how to do the standing still Olympics. And that you're making one of the worst videos you've ever made in your life. And that the whole point of this video was to show how a once incredibly anxious horse is now not anxious at all, and you want to show off about the standing still Olympics and suddenly you've lost them. Right, you don't worry about all that, because that's just what happens with horses. Things don't go perfectly. But, you know, I'm going to look at the positive side, is I've still got this very happy, bright, non-anxious pony, where there once was a horse who was frightened of everything, and I had to build up my own confidence levels, my own sense of self, and I did that little bit by little bit every day. And then I did little bit by little bit every day with her. And then suddenly we got to this stage where not only is she a happy horse, but she's really pleased to see all her humans. You know, she doesn't shy away from you. She wants to be rubbed and scratched, and whereas before she wouldn't let you touch her head or anything, would you know? You see, she's coming in for love. Yes, she is. She's coming in for love. Good girl. So that is my thought. Don't walk on eggshells. Don't fixate on the anxiety, yours or your horse's. Just take everything little bit by little bit. Give yourself the gift of time. Take the pressure off. Just achieve one tiny thing every day. And all those tiny things, with the pressure off, all those tiny things add up. And they add up and they add up and they add up. And then one day you realise your pony isn't anxious anymore and you're not anxious anymore. And I might talk about this more because I suddenly realise that 9 minutes isn't nearly enough. But I don't want to bore on, and poor Clova does want to go out and have a little adventure, as you can see. So I don't want to force her to just stand still for the next 20 minutes. But those are some initial thoughts. Make it small, take the pressure off, concentrate on what you're doing in the moment, and you will find that that anxiety gently starts to melt away.